Heyo, and welcome to the video that I should have made whenever I first made the Bestiary account. I just want to make a complete rules guide for my Bestiary challenge just because there's so much intricate stuff that goes into it in terms of rules and everything, just because the vagueness of the challenge itself. And I want this to be sort of a reference piece that people can go back and check. Last thing you want to do in an Iron Man snowflake kind of Iron Man video is change rules while we go. And so I kind of wanted to make this video to discuss those rules that I had planned on adhering to whenever we reach these monsters, but I feel like hindsight's 2020, let's just do it now. So yeah, this video isn't going to cover the basic rules. Those are kind of already covered in the rules description and the description of the other bestiary. This is specifically for more complex rules that necessarily haven't come up yet or need to be kind of expanded upon. Obviously, with the complexity of this challenge, there's going to be things like, keys that get you into monsters, monsters that have bodyguards and stuff. Like, do you kill those? How does that whole thing work? So that's kind of what we're going to be discussing. But first off, let's get the elephant of the room out of the room and talk about the least favorite and favorable things about challenges, which are mercy rules. I always intended on having a mercy rule for this account just so that progression doesn't just stop at a monster for several months. You have to do 10 hours of attempting to get every single drop of that monster. If not, you move on to the next monster. 3 monsters after that attempt, come back to that first monster that you could not get all the drops from, and then you do an hour, and then you move on to the next 3. And so this way you're still stuck and you still have to get all those drops, so they will be gotten eventually, but it will just take you some progression that will go throughout the account and you'll come back to it. And again, it's not like you have to only do an hour whenever you go back. You can go back to 500 hours. It's just you have to pay that tax. You have to do that 1 hour tax so that we're just not like forgetting about the monster and coming back when we have epic gear or something. Obviously, we want to have as little of mercy rules as possible. The fun from the challenge should come from my pain and the grind of all these tasks. So yeah, we're shooting for as little mercy rules as possible. However, there's just some monsters where it does not make sense to tackle them how you would a regular monster and stuff. So let's talk about hard to reach monsters. We're talking Obor, Breofeda, God War, Superiors, Mimic, and other monsters that require like keys or specific kind of traveling things to kill them. So this is not quest lock monsters or anything. These are specific, like you have to do hours of grinding just to get to this monster once. So unfortunately, these monsters are just gonna have a hard skip. This unfortunately includes Slayer monsters that can only be fought on task, like Hydras and Smoke Devils. Next, Champion Scrolls, Herb Rare, and Sea Drops are shared. So basically what that's going to look like is if only one monster can drop Champion Scrolls, then obviously we have to go for this Champion Scroll. If multiple different monsters have this drop table of Champion Scrolls, we are going to go until we've reached the last monster that's within the challenge guidelines. And then if we don't have the Champion Scroll by then we can go back and kill any of the monsters that have the Champion Scrolls as a drop table. When we reach Giants and we have, that Champion Scroll on the drop table, that doesn't mean we have to do 10 hours of Giants until we get everything. That Champion Scroll will be part of that shared drop for all Giants. And here is the last rule that I think would be kind of listed underneath that mercy rule, and that is Draconic Visage and other meme drops. What I'm going to do is, if there is an item that is found in multiple monsters drop table and has like a nutty, and we're gonna just do a hard lock, 5,000 plus drop rate. So this is like Visage, Curve Bones, etc. It will be a shared drop and abide by the Champion Scroll rules. Obviously, the main reason why I had this was for that Curve Bone and Visage drop. I just think that it would be better to just have one rule about the meme drops so that we don't have to kind of like assess each drop table and be like, that drop might be okay. No, we're just gonna say if it is 1 in 5,000 and above, and it is on multiple different drop tables of different monsters that we have to kill, then that will be the shared drop. So now the next few rules and everything are just to like keep the challenge as sincere as possible and go within the guidelines of get every unique drop from every monster without going back. So let's keep that in mind. So the first rule from these, let's just say challenge specific rules, or minions. So another huge thing to address is the minion problem. A lot of these bosses have minions that are supposed to be fought in conjecture with the boss, and most of them require the minions to be killed. We're talking like Husks at Nightmare, the Ghost at Cerberus. So what I'm going to do is every boss that has these minions that falls within the challenge, I'm going to attempt the boss with the gear that I'll have and everything. And if it is possible without, and in a solo environment, if it is possible in a solo environment without having to kill the minions, then we are Gucci and we are just going to keep doing that challenge as normal. Chess. No chess. Only direct drops from monsters upon death on the ground. Let's just go through the skills and talk about how we're going to tackle each skill in terms of what we can do. So seeds, we already know seeds yield 1 harvest per seed, per life or whatever. So like a bush, you pick all the bush leaves and then you clear it. You can't use that bush anymore. Same with trees, you chop the tree until it falls down. You got all those logs, but you had to clear that tree. So herblore, vials can't be bought. I have to reuse and turn off that barb smashing thing. It's gonna be freaking annoying, but I want to do as least exceptions as possible. There are monsters that drop vials and vials of water and stuff. We can obviously fill vials of water, that's within the challenge, but we cannot buy vials from the shop. So we'll just have to make sure we're not smashing, doing what the barbarians taught us kind of deal. You know how it goes. Fishing can be done as long as we're using bait that are finite, you know, like feathers and fishing bait. And we obviously have to use the tools that we get from drops. Slayer monsters may be killed on task for, you know, like the Brimstone and Gracilia keys. It's just not required. So, and what we're going to do with the monsters that require items, that's fine. The items that are required to kill monsters like ear ruffs, ice block, and blah 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 are allowed. We can purchase those and wear them as long as they don't give a bonus. Slayer helm can be crafted and upgraded after the black mask is obtained, and imbuing is totally fine on this account for all items. So yeah, basically, once we get that black mask, then we can craft the Slayer helm. And so I'm kind of just doing that just to make it to where, because I want drops that are useful. You just had to use a service from a shop to be used. And so we're kind of throwing in the Slayer helm with that. So if it does give a combat bonus, then we won't be killing that monster. But if it's like a helmet kind of related combat bonus thing, then we can go back to that monster after we get our Slayer helm. I think that makes the most sense. It's pretty easy. So speaking of shops and services, let's talk about shops and services. We obviously want to keep the account from just being able to buy any kind of upgrade and stuff for that foreseeable future. But I want to be able to use drops that can utilize services. So we're talking like dehyde, tanning, and then broken weapons. So we're going to be seeing a little bit of that maybe next episode. We'll be talking about that. Use the cash that's acquired or accrued through the account in order to actually be able to use that item. So I think that makes the most sense. However, let's talk about accumulator. So what I'm going to do is we can use the Vorkath head on the accumulator. So we won't have an accumulator until we kill Vorkath. So aka we won't have the accumulator until like the last couple monsters of the game. So that sucks. But no Ava, basically no Ava until Vorkath. So let's talk about some kind of dooming factor. Is I want to be transparent and say that there might come a time where we run out of runes and ammunition for like a monster that requires us to use either range or mage to kill. And you know, with the nature of this account, we can't go back to old monsters, you know, if we have completed all their drops. So we might get stuck. Let's just cross that bridge when we get to it. I'll try to play as smart as possible. But if there does come a point where the count can't progress because of, you know, that kind of roadblock where we had to use magic and we have no more runes left or something, then I will allow gold to be used that is made from the account, because we should have a lot stacked up by then. I'll allow gold to be used in order to purchase runes and ammunition if that ever comes to it. Hopefully that doesn't ever come to it. So let's talk about region specific drops, because you know, that's something that I've discussed or shown in the video before. So what is a region specific drop? When I first made the account, I wanted to not have region specific drops just because that would basically duplicate a drop table. You know, because there's monsters that have the same exact drop table, but if you kill them in the wilderness, they drop a looting bag. So I wanted to avoid that. I think it kind of goes against the account. We're wanting to get totally unique drop tables, and there's a lot of monsters that add just one item. Yeah, so if a monster, let's say like imps, has the same exact drop table, but has one region-specific drop, then the region-specific drop is void. But let's talk about something kind of fun, actually. Let's talk about the end game. What is the actual end game going to look like for this account? When we're actually looking at the actual end boss of the game that abides by the rules and everything with the minions and the raids and everything, then the highest combat monster that we're going to be able to kill to finish off this challenge will be Phantom Muspa. And I think that it will be a great final boss because it'll be completely within the challenge. It drops the things right on the floor. And it's a very high combat monster, very high requirement. So I think it'll be pretty sick to go for the Phantom Muspa at this point in time, the last monster that we can kill on that Bestiary Wikipedia. But I will still be attempting monsters like, you know, Nex and Nightmare are technically higher combat than Phantom Muspa. And they have minions and stuff. So I'm going to try to solo those with the gear that is allotted and not kill the minions. If they can be done, then that will be the final boss, but I'm thinking Phantom Muspa is going to be the final boss. But yeah, that's kind of all the rules that I can think of at this moment. Obviously, this challenge is super weird. You know, it hasn't really been done this way before that I've seen, so I'm not going from a guide that's previously established that has concrete rules like the chunk. If you have any questions about any rulings, or you can think of something that comes up that I've overlooked or something, let me know in the comments. I'm excited for the next couple chapters of this challenge. Thank you so much. Bye bye.